Hi everyone and welcome to Module 3 of our Backyard Biodiversity course. This week we're diving into the challenges facing the wildlife and ecosystems around us, specifically the threats to biodiversity. When we say biodiversity, we mean the variety of life in a given area. Animals, plants, fungi, bacteria, all the living organisms that interact with one another, and right now that biodiversity is under a lot of pressure. So far in this course, we've talked about the species living around us and how they survive. Now it's time to flip the lens and look at what's putting them at risk. This module is about developing awareness, not just about endangered animals far away, but about the problems happening right here in Western New York. Whether it's pollution in our waterways or the impact of climate change, these threats have real consequences. All right, so what exactly do we mean by threats to biodiversity? Well, biodiversity refers to the variety of life in an area. From the tiniest insects to largest trees, a threat is anything that reduces that variety, whether it's shrinking populations, habitat loss, or extinction of species altogether. One important thing to keep in mind is that these threats are usually caused by human activity. They don't happen in isolation. Often one threat leads to another. For example, clearing land for buildings not only destroys habitats, it may also introduce pollution, bring in invasive species, and reduce the natural resources local animals need to survive. It is a chain reaction. Let's quickly walk through 5 major threats that we study all the time as ecologists. I want you to think about which of these you've seen or heard about in your own community. Habitat loss. This is when forests, wetlands, fields, and other natural spaces are replaced and developed with roads, cities, and buildings. It's the number one cause of biodiversity loss. Pollution is our second. Chemicals from farming, trash, oil, noise, and even light can interfere with our natural ecosystems. Third is climate change. As the climate warms, seasonal patterns change. Some species can't keep up. Others might move into new areas, disrupting local ecosystems. Fourth is invasive species. These are organisms that don't belong but get introduced and take over, sometimes on purpose, sometimes accidentally. Overharvesting. This includes overfishing, overhunting, or excessive logging that removes key parts of an ecosystem. As we move through the module, you'll start recognizing how these threats show up in Western New York. That's part of the goal here, to take the global concepts and make them more personal and more local for you. Habitat loss is one of the biggest threats globally, and it's a major issue here in Western New York. Think about how many forests or fields have been cleared for housing, shopping plazas, or highways. Every time natural land disappears, the animals and plants that live there either have to move or die off. Even things like road construction fragments habitats, dividing wildlife populations, and making it harder for them to find food, mates, or safe spaces. So next time you see construction, ask yourselves, who might have been living there before? What's going to be living there now? And is this better for our community as a living population on this earth? Pollution is another huge threat, especially here in areas around Lake Erie and the Niagara River. We're talking about air pollution from cars, chemical runoff from farms, plastic waste from cities, and even noise pollution that disrupts normal animal behavior. One case study worth exploring is plastic waste in the Niagara River and Lake Erie. These plastics break down into microplastics, which are eaten by fish, and those fish are eaten by birds or even us. Pollution doesn't just stay in one place, it moves through the entire food web. You might be thinking climate change is more of a global problem, but it's already affecting Western New York in real ways. Birds are migrating earlier in spring, insect populations are shifting, some even disappearing, others are expanding. The timing of natural events like when flowers bloom or animals hibernate is also changing. These changes might seem small, but when the natural rhythm gets out of sync, species can suffer. For example, if a bird arrives too early and insects haven't hatched yet, it might not find enough food to survive or even feed its young. Let's focus on one of the more sneaky threats to biodiversity, which is invasive species. These are plants, animals, or even fungi that aren't originally from our region, but they get introduced and cause serious problems. Sometimes invasive species are brought here accidentally, like insects that hitch a ride in wooden pallets or shipping containers. Other times they're introduced on purpose, like plants people thought would look nice in their gardens, but ended up spreading uncontrollably. Here are 3 major invasive species affecting New York ecosystems right now. The emerald ash borer, this little beetle has killed millions of ash trees. Once it infects a tree, there's usually no saving it. This affects not just forests, but also city neighborhoods where ash trees were commonly planted for shade. The European starling. These birds were introduced in the 1800s. Someone thought it would be cool to have all the birds mentioned in Shakespeare in the U.S. today. They crowd out native species like bluebirds and woodpeckers by stealing nesting sites. Zebra mussels. These tiny mussels spread fast in freshwater lakes and rivers. They clog pipes, damage ecosystems, and outcompete native species. You'll find them in places like Lake Erie and the Niagara River. Invasives are tough to manage because once they get established, it's hard to remove them without causing more harm. Prevention, early detection, and awareness are the best tools we have. Take a moment to think. Have you seen warnings about invasive species while hiking or boating? Or maybe you heard about certain plants or animals you shouldn't release into the wild. These are all public messages that are part of an effort to stop their spread. Now let's talk about what happens when a species can't adapt to threats. When their population drops so low, they risk disappearing entirely. We use terms like threatened, at risk, or endangered to describe different levels of concern. These labels help conservationists prioritize which species need help urgently, and they're part of legal protections under laws like the Endangered Species Act. Here in New York, we're not immune to this problem. In fact, many species native to our area are in serious trouble. In particular, the Indiana bat. This species hibernates in caves and mines, and it's being hit hard by something called white nose syndrome, a fungal disease that's wiping out bat populations. The spiny softshell turtle. This freshwater turtle is sensitive to pollution and changes in water levels. It's also impacted by shoreline development that removes its nesting areas. Short-eared owl. This owl hunts in open grasslands which are quickly being lost to construction and agriculture. Without large tracts of undisturbed fields, their hunting territory vanishes. These species are just the tip of the iceberg. For every well-known endangered animal, there are dozens more slipping under the radar. One of our jobs this week is to raise awareness, because the more we know, the more we can protect. Later in the week, you'll research one local threat and share it in our discussion board. You'll take a short quiz, reflect on a journal, and even complete a group project. Things to do this week. Watch the video and read the articles embedded in the module. Participate in the discussion board. Take the second quiz in our course here, which is the last one you will take. Complete the group assignment, and make sure that you wrap up that journal. Biodiversity loss isn't just a faraway issue. It's important to remember that it's happening right here in our parks, neighborhoods, and backyards. It's up to all of us to notice, understand, and take action. Every little bit counts, from planting native flowers to spreading awareness to cleaning up a stream. Stay curious and stay committed as we take on this journey together.